Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever in the world you might be. I am Nicole BC, and you know everything. Woo, I am appropriately caffeinated for this episode. The most counterintuitive secret to success is so much easier than you think. And in this video, we are going to reveal the most challenging part of business and building success, and the number one obstacle that is in your way and preventing you from achieving everything you've ever desired. Sounds like a big promise. Hear me out. Ideas that come from stress create stress, and it sounds obvious. The challenge is in those stressful moments to not engage. And that is much simpler than it sounds. It's so obvious when we say things like the definition of insanity is repeating the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. But I'll tell you what, my entire job is literally reminding people this is the strategy that you created to achieve results you've never received before. So why are you doing the old thing again? And it's because of the very reactive nature of being alive. Ideas that come from this space can feel very inspired, but it is the truly innovative ideas, the ideas that are not just inspired, but are innovation. They are new. They have not been experienced or enacted or implemented by you yet. Those are the ones that are going to move the needle. Those are the ones that are going to change everything for you. Those are going to be the scariest, riskiest, most left of field, unexpected, not a part of the plan ideas that we are gifted rarely in our experience is a frequency. As you know, I like to describe kind of feelings and energy and thoughts, but it's got a different fucking feel to it. Like I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it, right? And so often, as you may or may not know, I cut my teeth working in the creative industries, working with musicians very specifically. That then sort of expanded to the wider arts and nonprofits. And then it was entrepreneurs and startup businesses and then businesses in totally new industries like cannabis and now psilocybin and tech and creating technologies and services that just didn't exist before. So it's been a long time. And I did get to watch some of the most popular and most influential and also financially successful artists start. And I'll tell you what, watching a bunch of in some cases 14-year-old boys ideate and inspire and innovate was really interesting because it didn't look like anything special. And it sure as shit was described as insanity. And when people started throwing money at this situation, it got crazy. And the faith and knowing one needs to have in that frequency of innovation is the secret. But how the fuck do we get there? The challenge is it is the most counterintuitive, soul challenging action that is needed, or inaction, as it may actually show up. And we are going to talk a lot about having to do this, doing the same thing over and over again and not creating different results. How do you actually disrupt? How do you pattern interrupt? And it's so funny because I notice this when I feel like I'm talking like my mom or my dad, right? Like I mean, how many times have you heard yourself say like, oh my God, I sound exactly like that person that I used to rally against my whole childhood. And now suddenly I am like repeating the words that they said. And in that moment, you kind of feel like, oh, wow, this is really coming from the past. This is old. This is quite literally an outdated narrative. I am repeating an old story. Interesting. Tune into that frequency and that feeling, because that's going to be your first hint, right? Like this isn't coming from me. This is coming from outside of me. This is old, and I know how this will result. This shows up pretty obviously in like some of the financial decisions and or risks that we need to take. You find yourself repeating like the caretakers that you had or the mentors or teachers that you had, and you will get what they created by following those strategies. So in this moment of, I don't know what the fuck to do now, I feel like I am under fire. I feel like I have to put out fires. I feel like I am in a chaos, and all I desperately need is that calm. But instead, we just react. It doesn't feel like we have the choice to take the space in those incredibly high stress situations. And this, my friend, this is the most counterintuitive, the biggest challenge, and the number one secret. You stop, drop, and roll, as we would have said in the California public school systems in the 80s. I don't know if they still do that. I feel like they have many different drills in school now, which are, that's a different podcast. There are a couple different reasons why we like to show up as the hero. And this isn't everybody by any means, but a lot of us like to feel important. We like to feel needed. And you might notice a pattern of chaos in your experience. Feels like everything's happening all the time. And you have to ask yourself, why? Why am I positioning myself as the bottleneck, as the hero, as the only one who everyone in my world or my experience or even my business or process can go to get to the next step? Why do I feel the need to step in and solve all of these problems that may or may not even be yours? This is some of that patterning and that knee-jerk reactivity, that like automatic, I don't even know I'm doing it, I don't even realize I have a choice here, habit that will continue to create more stress. Ideas that come from stress create more stress inevitably, obviously, but like we don't ever really question it because we don't give ourselves the space to. So how do you pattern interrupt when it feels like everything is crumbling around you? I look at it in terms of that feeling. And y'all, make it real simple. Does it feel good? Does it feel bad? If it feels bad, start to script out ways that you can literally say, I'm going to need 5 minutes. I've got a call. I'll get right back to you. Whatever story you need to tell to any of the people that you think are like waiting and watching you and demanding a response in this moment, you have full permission and agency, choice to say, give me 5. I need to go to the bathroom. I've got a nervous poo, right? I've heard that a lot. I don't, that's not me. But anywho, you nervous poo all you need, my friend. You cannot create from stress. That is not the energy of stress. You can react, you can triage, you can stop the hemorrhaging, but that's not healing, right? Like that's not strength building. That's not recovery. So look back on all of the times you reacted. I have talked ad nauseum about some of the biggest mistakes and painful experiences where I was ugly, crying on the floor, telling myself, I've just ruined my career. I have just let everybody down. I'm going to be like front page Facebook, For You page with like everybody making fun of me. And that's actually why we cry. That's actually why we have meltdowns, is to give ourselves permission to pause. If you're feeling avoidance, apathy, that's huge for my people. I just don't care about this the way that I used to. We can describe burnout in a lot of different ways. All it is that level 1 energy. It is simply permission to pause. I feel unsafe. Resource yourself. From there, you can start to go, okay, what truly is the most immediate, urgent need right now? And now we get into the space of creation. Now we give ourselves the opportunity to go, what is the most important thing here? What am I creating? And what actions and activities are necessary to actually get me there? And if I'm on this trajectory towards chaos and pain, I might not be on the right exact path. I might need to backstep it a little bit and take a different direction, course correct, pivot, right? Recognizing quite simply the new rule is I do not create from stress. If it feels bad, I'm taking a beat. I'm taking a knee. I'm going to give myself the opportunity to pattern interrupt. That's it, my friend. Mic drop. The number one secret to success is don't do anything right now, right? It's a little bit of clickbaity social media, like, well, I'm gonna walk you through a particular situation, right? You have just received a piece of really negative feedback. Maybe it's a business partner, maybe it's a customer client buyer, maybe it's your mom or dad or family member, trusted confidant. They've just told you you fucked up and this is your fault. And these are the negative consequences of your choices. Whew, man, my stomach just dropped thinking about the many times I've received that. So what do? Do you disassociate because it's so triggering? You literally leave your freaking body for a minute. You doom scroll, you Netflix and chill, you eat all of the cookies in the cookie jar. Okay. That's one way of dealing with it for sure. That's that level 1, permission to pause, nurture, secure, give yourself what you need without judgment. Maybe you argue, you jump right to that level 2 and you think, fuck you. Here's all of the things that were out of my control that are your fault. Here's the things that I'm going to blame. Blah, 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 blah. And you might say some things you regret. You might make yourself physically ill. This is where stress actually becomes physically damaging for us. Maybe you level 3 it and just say, I accept the feedback and I will create a plan that I will run past you and we will we'll triage and figure out where to from here. And then you kind of go and sit in front of your computer and your spreadsheets and you kind of tune out and create a way forward that you're not really that excited about. But hey, it'll at least satisfy the situation at hand. That's level 3. And it's not a bad place to be. It gives you an opportunity to go, you know what, fuck this, I'm out. Or, you know what, there is some hope. There's some light at the end of the tunnel. Let's see what life looks like on the other side of that tunnel, so on and so forth. You climb that energetic ladder, right? But what if you take that feedback and you just go, I'm having a really strong reaction to this right now. I am going to get back to you. You give them a timeline, whatever actually feels doable, feels good. And you go for a walk. You take a nap. Maybe you eat one cookie, not all the cookies in the cookie jar. Maybe you go for the most intense run you've ever been on in your life. Maybe you don't even run. Maybe you go hug your dog, your partner, your kid, your mom, whomever gives you that sense of security and safety and tells you that you're beautiful and brilliant, even if you don't believe them for 1 second. But you give yourself some space and you kind of wait. You do the things that you need to do to get to that place of inspiration. And then from there, you start the ideation process and you go, okay, that sucked. Anything to gain from it? Any potential truth in it? Maybe that's them projecting. The amount of times I've had people tell me something they think I don't already know about myself, and I hear them and I say, thank you. That fucking sucks that that's your feedback, that was your experience. That sounds so hard. Whew, I apologize for playing any part in that particular experience of yours. May I share with you my intentions and my own takeaways from that exact same thing? And we are able to then in that moment realize we're having like 2 completely different experiences, despite the fact we're actually sharing them. Like we were in the same space at the same time, hearing the same words, but like my takeaways were wildly different. And then we can both go, oh, far out. I'm deeply invested in this. I want for both of us to feel successful. How do we get there? That's when you get to that inspired place. There is a win-win-win here, that level 5. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Let's have some fun with this, right? So when you give yourself that opportunity to find that place of inspiration, that's when the innovation shows up. And it feels different for everybody. It's not for me to tell you what my inspiration and innovation feels like. That's a frequency you get to tune into. Inspiration to me feels fun, playful. All the ideas are all firing. Some of them sound fucking crazy. Some of them are outright dumb, but some of them are like, whoa. And then eventually kind of slows down and there's one, maybe two ideas, and that process feels complete. Then I get to look at those ideas and go, which one lights me up? I might also not be able to in that moment. Energy might have played out. It might be time to shift focus and dive into something different, get those juices flowing again. I know those frequencies for me. But that innovative idea truly lights me up. It feels compelling. Like something I want to, for me, I get a little obsessive over it. It feels like I want to stay up all night working on it. And I have that opportunity, and it's a different podcast because, yeah, when that innovation hits, it's like, line them up. I don't want to stop. There's an addictive frequency to it. And I can see that now and go, cool. I just set these little timers for myself and go, we get to go all in on this for the next X amount of time. And then it's time to like steer the ship back onto course, right? There are no guarantees to success, but you can play the game as if there was. And what we're doing is tapping into imagination, trust, inspiration. When we remove the parameters of, is this going to work? Can I afford this? Do I have the resource? Do I have the blah? And we go, let's just play, right? So reflect back on some of your most stellar results. Were they a part of a plan? Did you have those initial inception ideas when you were stressed the fuck out? I hear a lot of people talking about on the other side of the chaos and the fires burning and the smoldering ashes. Once all of that energy had subsided, that's when the idea came. And yet we always want to desperately find it in the midst of that shitstorm, right? But you can't, because you're in that place of reactivity and stress. And that's just not where the ideas are. So your most stellar results, did they surprise you? Did they happen because you were executing and taking action and going through the motions from a place of security, from that pretend space of, I believe this is going to work so strongly, I'm not questioning it. There is no doubt. I'm just going through the motions. This feels fun. That's that space to create from. And that's when the innovation shows up. Not necessarily in the pushing and the forcing and the hustling and the, we just got to get through this, just one more foot, it's really hard, blah, blah, blah. They're different strategies for those experiences. And I'm not saying to bypass those or ignore them. That's just a different space. That's survival mode. That is not thrive, right? That's survive. Different experience altogether. And again, not always avoidable. Not always will, shoulda, woulda, coulda, our way out of it. But when we're in it, recognize it for what it is. And don't force yourself to create and inspire. Knowing you will be successful is different than hoping. So this is, I think, another layer to this challenge, is that we're so often told as visionaries and as creatives, you just have to have faith. You just have to believe. Have to kind of negates faith and belief. That faith and knowing is a different frequency. I talked about this a lot with the 75 Hard challenge that I used to do. When I first signed up for it, there's a few different components that create it. And this concept of 75 days kind of tripped me out. Like my brain was like, does not compute. Like it's not a month. It's not 3 weeks. It's not that like 28 days until you have a habit. It's just like a weird kind of amorphous time. And it gave me the opportunity to tune into the difference between I am going to try to do 75 hard to I do 75 hard. Like I work out twice a day. I don't drink. I read in the morning and in the night. So on and so forth. There was like a couple, I think I was like giving up sugar the first time I did it. And it was just like, this is what I do now. And I was like, that's faith. That's knowing. That isn't hope. Something so many of us have used to motivate us, to push us, to risk mitigate, to get through survival is this idea that the other shoe is going to drop. We call it risk mitigation. We have to always be prepared for like things to not go our way. That to me is like hope. I hope it works out versus it's going to work. It always works out. I always win. And something I experienced, because like shit has not been going according to plan in my life. But I realized that's still all part of the plan. And actually, like, how did I, it was such a harsh kind of like aha moment for me. But it was like waiting for the other shoe to drop is for losers. If I'm playing not to lose, that is a completely different strategy than I win. Like, and if I'm actually just waiting for something bad to happen, it's because I'm planning on losing. That's for fucking losers. And I don't want to lose. I don't think you do either. And so I hope this doesn't hit you like accusatory or blameful, but it was just this really simple shift in that like risk mitigation for the space of being responsible. That's level 3. Like, of course, you should be like, do I have enough money to get through the next X amount of months that I feel safe and secure? So I'm out of level 1. Have I addressed the fact that people are going to tell me this is insane and this is crazy and this is never going to work? And like, how much am I even going to let that play into that level 2 defensiveness? Do I feel like I'm in control? Do I feel like I have choice in this moment? Then I can get to the like, okay, we've done our work there. That's we've existed and implemented a responsible level of planning on taking a few L's. Like, let's shift into the W's now. Like, let's start winning. Question: how many times have you like stressed the fuck out about something, and in the meantime, it actually just resolves itself? You've been like, okay, I mean, this has popped up so much for me recently. I had my bookkeeper bail. I had one of my team members had to go to the hospital. Like, really, I've got a bunch of family stuff going on. And old me would have been like, holy fuck, I need to drop everything right now and fucking work out all of my travel plans, figure out all of my finances, tell all of my accountants, because I've got different accountants for different, the book, blah, blah, blah. And then new me is like, whoa, that sucks. Okay. Let's first make sure that those people are taken care of and they have what they need from me, because I'm in relationship with these people and I want everybody I work with to feel supported appropriately. I can't solve their fucking problems for them, but I can do a thing that would certainly alleviate them. If at the very least, let them know, focus on you right now. This work is not important compared to your health, your well-being, what's going on in your life. So we'll hit pause on that. It's also not my work. It's not, the world isn't going to stop spinning if my books don't get turned in by the date that I had wanted to, which is 3 months before it actually needs to, like in the 24 hours that I give in each of these 3 examples, in the 24 hours I gave myself to just be like, fuck, I don't know what to do about this right now. That sucks. I am going to let them know I care deeply about them. And if there's anything they need that I can provide, ask and we'll see. And I'll get to this when it feels like I have this space to think very creatively about how to truly solve this problem. And in each one of those instances, the problem solved itself. I didn't have to do shit. And actually, it was a way better solution than what had initially showed up in my brain hole when I got those like bad news bears updates. So I say that because worry it's never solved shit. And in fact, it's that level 1 energy of I don't have to do anything about this in this moment because the only thing I want to do is feel safe. And it's an old pattern of not doing anything because we don't feel safe. Therefore, we can't. So recognize worry for what it is, which is permission to do nothing. And then give yourself permission to truly embrace that experience of nothing without letting this fucking narrative distract you and drain you of all of your energies to get to that creative space of actual ideation and inspiration and innovation. Solve the problem by doing something you've never done before, by coming up with an idea that's never happened for you before. Give yourself some, maybe hit pause and just think about, what's the last thing you worried about? Did that fix it? Has the problem actually ever resolved itself without you intervening? Why do you feel the need to solve all of the problems? Is that even possible? You create a plan for change when you give your energy, your bandwidth, your full attention to creativity. When something shitty gets your attention and you give that all of your energy, I bet it feels like everything's falling apart. I watch so many leaders create these new systems and structures, but then default to their worrying, to their playing not to lose patterning. And I get it. We don't want to take the L. The bigger our game, a lot more rides on those losses. And we tell ourselves stories about what might happen in the future, that more of that worrying. But those things have never happened before. And then we start making plans for the worst case scenarios. What do you think? What do you think those plans will lead you to? And not in some like spiritual woo way. There is a level of responsibility that is useful. And then it becomes an actual waste of time and energy. So how does one continually remind themselves this is an experiment? We are strategizing. We've got some inspired and what feel like innovative ideas. We're going to implement them. And even when it gets tough, even when sometimes the costs are going to outweigh the benefits as we're testing new systems, how do we stick this through beyond hypothesis, but to the proof? First, we begin by knowing this frequency, right? Of commitment, of faith, of knowing. This is the first step in creating something new, is simply believing you're already doing it. Notice the need to compare and contrast not just the results of the metrics, but you in this present moment to your old self. Because you're going to feel a little shaky and a little weird. You were like the butterfly with the wet wings emerging from the chrysalis. And you got to give it a minute for your wings to dry out before you can fly. But do you... I stumbled upon the Caterpillar, that book from our childhood. And I sent to my very first coach, like when you notice you're in the fat chrysalis stage of your development, like, it's weird. It's uncomfortable. I haven't figured out yet how to like avoid that part of it. But what I have gotten really fucking good at is the discomfort and like the kind of embarrassing, awkward weirdness. And I have different strategies for that. But it's just reminding yourself it's supposed to feel clunky and weird. And I, as the vision holder, I, as the leader, I, as the creative, get to create this experience, not just for me, but for people that I am sharing it with. And again, there's strategies around that. But it's just reminding yourself, I am here. I am in that space of knowing. I am going to pretend this is a guaranteed success strategy. And then I'm going to engage in my activities in this moment with that faith, that frequency of knowing. We remind ourselves it's supposed to feel uncomfortable and weird. And this is also where, like, again, there's strategies for that. I have a bunch of them. I call it out. This might sound a little weird. This might hurt your feelings. I just had to do this with my family. Y'all are probably going to think I'm being a selfish little C word. That's okay. I get that it's going to appear as such for you. I've done what I need to do in this moment, and I feel fucking good about it. So you're allowed to have your interpretations and opinions of the situation from your perspective. And I get that. I don't have to like endure it, you know? If I don't want to be around it, I can leave. But like then I start, anyhow, that's all my own family shit. Point being, it's going to feel uncomfortable and weird. Support yourself accordingly. Get a coach. I pay lots of people to push me through the uncomfortable parts so that I can get the results that I want. That's a tried and tested success strategy for me. Find your own. Like I said, I call it out when I know it's going to get weird. I remind myself it's supposed to be weird. I just recorded an episode on spring. Winter sucks. When you fold it, when you throw your cards in, it's hard. It's supposed to be. We don't want the good stuff to end and we don't want the bad stuff to linger. Like, yeah. And new results will demand that process of learning that feels challenging. That's it. So reflect back on times when you've created massive change and results that you want. What skills did you use? How can you apply those skills to whatever situation you're trying to create something new in? Every person I talk to doesn't celebrate their wins. they say, I'm so bad at celebrating, or I always forget, or I feel like I'm bragging. Okay, I don't care. That's dumb. Like, whatever. That could be the very first thing that you decide to challenge and change in terms of getting to this inspired and inspirational place. Because you know what feels good? Fucking celebrating, recognizing, despite how small, despite how incremental, this was a win. I'm recording this podcast episode today, despite everything going on in my life. Huge win. And I'm doing it from a place of inspired. I have been waiting to get to this space for weeks now. I've tried all of the things. You know what I did today? I complained. I complained to everybody I both pay and don't pay. And that shifted it for me. I'm going to add that to my tool belt now. A lot more complaining and a lot more celebrating of like, it would be really easy for me to go, this should have happened 3 weeks ago. I don't deserve to celebrate. Nope. Not going to fucking do it. I'm going to celebrate here with you right now. Thank you so much for being here. Gratitude. It's another beautiful way to get that dopamine and dopamine of flowing. Thank you, serotonin. Thank you, oxytocin. Thank you, brain hole. Let's co-create together. And this is how you train yourself to actually push through the hard stuff, is you recognize it, the journey is the reward. It's in the doing that we actually get to experience all of these chemicals that we think is the reward, because it's only in those spaces of actual pause, actual celebration, that we can create these inspired, innovative, new ideas. So what's the difference? Inspiration versus innovation. Inspiration begets innovation. When we tune into that feeling, that frequency of inspired, when we feel like we're tapping into something bigger and greater than ourselves, the innovation shows up. I could actually, I have 1,000 more notes. That's a big number, just for the record, like Googleplex, which my friend Thor and I debate regularly. There's so much more on this. If you enjoyed this, if you want more on this, if you need more strategies very specifically to get to the inspired space, or what to do when you're in the meltdown, reactive stress space, I got you. Find me at the BZ channel on all of the social platforms. I talk a lot about this in the Anti-Business School. You can access that via NicoleBZ.com. And I think that's it. Sign up for the loop. That's my little weekly download. Ooh, I need to write that. Yeah, I'm going to go do that. Thanks so much for being here. Love you.